Hello and welcome to my channel Health and Wellness with Emma Mentel, and to my update since I broke my long fast 10 days ago. Thank you so much for all of you who supported me during that long fast, for the comments and the phone calls and what you've shared. The bits that I offered or shared with you that somehow impacted on how you look at certain things or gave you perhaps some perspective, even though the journeys might be completely different. It's always so valuable for me to get the feedback from others because, of course, when it comes to weight, health, and these kind of journeys, it's all so personal. And some of us might be looking at the same priority that we are trying to address, but each one of us will have such a different experience, even a different outcome, even though we might be approaching things from the same guidelines, doing exactly the same thing. And that was one of my golden nuggets, I think, for myself, that I realized during the fast. And since I broke that fast properly 10 days ago, it is a very personal journey, and it really for me was something more about my mindset, how my mind was dealing with the different stages compared to how my body was dealing with it. My body did extremely well. I'm so grateful that my body managed so incredibly well. But I understand my body well. I know how to read signs and symptoms. And I also tracked blood glucose. I'm familiar with fasting. So I want to just mention again that a 3-week fast definitely is not for everybody, especially if you haven't fasted before. It's good to get some guidance, to perhaps practice. Think of it the same way that you would think about running a marathon. That you don't just get straight into the long distance if you are not fit. You would want to start to practice with walks, walk runs, maybe build up to a 5-kilometer, 10-kilometer, and eventually you might reach the fitness where the 42-kilometer would feel absolutely fine. And fasting, in my opinion, is very similar, that we can't just launch into the longer fasts and expect the same ease along the way, or that you might not struggle. But anyway, that is a lot of the information that I share in my online fasting courses. For those of you who have joined a previous online fasting courses, you will know that it's a weekly sharing of information, explaining the science behind fasting and why we sort of build on the next phase as we go. And on that, my next online fasting course will probably start towards the middle of May or towards the end of May. We've had so many public holidays in South Africa that it's been virtually impossible just to know what day of the week it is, let alone for people to commit to a 6 or 8 week fasting course. So I wanted just to share with you some of my insights and some of the things that I've been considering since the break of my fast 10 days ago. 2 things that I feel would apply, not just to fasting or weight loss, but to any other intention that you have, whether it's financial, health, relationships, self-care, any kind of health or healing journey. I find that this, or I think that this, these principles would overlap regardless of what it is that you're doing, or whether even it's a health practice. I mentioned, I think frequently or a few times over the last year, and especially also with my fast, that intentions, in my opinion, are very important. What is an intention? An intention is, in my opinion, better than a goal. A goal feels quite definite, whereas intention is a desire. An intention for me can really support a health journey, regardless of what the journey is about. So an intention might look like you writing down a few points about how you want to feel. What is the outcome you desire? Can you have a dream or a vision about where you want to get to with your health? So in my case, it might be weight, it might be how I feel in my clothes, it might be energy-wise, how I feel light and inspired, and you can give it a whole lot of words, but start with an intention and think of it as how do I want to feel, as if this is just going to happen already. It's not when I get to a certain weight, then I'm going to do these things. When I get to a certain outcome, or when I reach a certain weight goal or size goal, then I'm going to start doing these things. It's important that we align ourselves with the habits and the rituals and how we feel in a day, as if we've already reached that desired outcome. So if I think about, I want to feel creative, inspired, joyful, appreciate my body, I've got to start doing that right now. I can't wait to start that only when I get to the certain point, whether it's a size or a weight. And then what really supports this desire and the intention is the choices that you start making. Of course, if we want to achieve or reach a certain intention, or even if you want to call it a goal, then our choices that we make have to start aligning with that. And I felt that the Joy of Money course that I'm busy with has helped me so much in applying similar principles to money, to abundance, and to my health and weight journey. So if you have an intention for your health, you've got to start making choices that will support that intention. Having an intention is one thing, but if you're going to choose to have fast foods and never exercise and go to bed late and not look after yourself, then that intention, it's almost impossible to create that desired outcome that you are hoping for. So the choices that we make, and don't get me wrong, it's not as if a 3-week fast suddenly fixes everything from previous unhealthy eating habits. It's a continuous process. It's a continual commitment to making very particular choices. And perhaps one day it just becomes the default. If we've been living in a certain way, if we've been making certain choices, whether it was conscious or unconscious, whether it was based on trauma or fear, if we've been living in that survival mode for the longest time, it might take a bit longer to completely change your habits, and it might feel like it's a very long journey. But if your biggest why is a strong enough reason for you to change habits, then it's not going to feel like a sacrifice. Then it's not going to feel like you are being deprived of anything, or that it's such a burden for you to continue with the healthy choices. It's going to feel like, this is how I want to live, this is how I want to eat, and this is how I want to take care of my body. Because self-love might require a completely different set of choices for you, and it might take longer. If you've been unfit for all your life, to suddenly start walking or jogging or doing exercises might feel like a big deal in the beginning. But over time, and the more and more you do it, and the more you show up consistently to do it, the more it becomes a habit. And before you know it, that's just what your day looks like. And that always encourages me to think that certain things that I've been doing over time have now just become a habit. I feel like when I wake up in the morning, I automatically want to grab my bag, put on my walking shoes, pack my things to go to the beach and go for a walk, or go for a swim. Maybe initially when I started doing that, it was more of a conscious effort. I had to keep on telling myself, you've got to do this today, you've got to keep doing that. And now it's just automatic. And I do think with health and weight, and that it is the same. So I'd love to hear from you how you have made certain choices and how you have developed certain habits that now just happen automatically. Of course, having support, I think, is so helpful. So being part of a community or a group, or having at least one other person who's on a similar journey, is very supportive. If you have to keep on showing up for a run or a walk or exercise and you're doing it on your own, it can get very hard. If there's somebody else who's doing it with you and you know that they are showing up, especially when you're trying to get into this as a long-term habit, it just feels so much more supportive. And that's the kind of community that I always hope to create with my fasting courses, that people feel they're not alone. They'll listen to somebody describe how hard it was to stop eating bread, for example, and think, okay, I'm not alone. So please watch out on my social media, but I'll also mention on here shortly and soon when the next course is happening. I think group support, community is absolutely essential if you want to establish long-term habits, long-term healthy habits that will support your health and your healing journey. And then I think that knowledge is power, that the more we understand about the different tools that we are using or implementing, why we are doing it, that helps us to really buy in and commit to it even more. It's one thing for a practitioner like myself or an endocrinologist or doctor to say to you, you need to start eating differently, or you need to start exercising or checking your blood glucose. But when you start to understand the science and the theory around that, and you know how certain foods and certain lifestyle habits might impact on your intentions or your health goals, it makes it easier for you to commit to this if you know why you're doing it. I think it's extremely important in this day and age that we know why we're doing something. And the science around low carbon fasting is now well established. It's not so unfamiliar anymore. There are many doctors and health practitioners like myself who have studied the science of fasting, who really understand the benefits and who can see the benefits of that. and that I encourage you to embrace, whether it's on an online course like I usually offer, or whether you start to follow different experts and get to know what they say, what happens to inflammation, what happens to blood glucose, what happens to fasting insulin when you start to practice certain ways of eating, or when you start to include fasting. It's so much more a personal choice then, more so than just somebody telling you what you can and can't do. There will be some of you like myself who sometimes feel like we want to rebel against that instruction. So if you're one of those, really make sure that you speak to a practitioner, or that you find the things to read up about that will make you understand the importance, or how to do it, or what the benefits will be, so that it doesn't feel like it's just some random instruction or prescription and you're just doing it because somebody else told you how to do it. Some of my other rituals that I always include would be movement, walking or swimming, dancing, really looking at gratitude every day, creativity, being outdoors, walking barefoot on the beach. I'm so lucky where I live that that's something that is so accessible to me. And that for me is something it's like an essential nutrient, that joy or that movement, or watching the ocean, or lighting a fire and watching that. So we all have different ways of feeling like we're being nourished, and especially in the context of fasting, where we're removing food, whether it's for 24 hours or for 21 days. If we feel that we can deeply nourish ourselves with our practices, whether it's prayer, meditation, yoga, walking, being in nature, it helps us to feel that we are still full, that we have enough, and that we are enough. So in the absence of food, can you find ways to practice or choose practices that make you feel deeply nourished? It can be such a game changer, and I hope that you will let me know what your essential nutrients are from a nourishment point of view other than eating. Please let me know if you have questions or comments now that I have finally updated you since I broke my fast. And I really look forward to my next update and my next share with you. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment, please like this video. If you haven't subscribed, please be reminded to hit the notification button. I'm not sure with updates on YouTube how that always works, but for you to be notified of new shares, that will really help. Thank you so much for being here.